Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Brajadana Randana. Yashodanandana Brajadana Randana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara. Yashodanandana Brajadana Randana. Yashodanandana Brajadana Randana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Bolo, Hare Rama, Bolo Bolo, Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radhe, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 He should chant.
నోట్లో కొంచెం అది ఉండైతే కదా వేడి అయింది పాడట్లేదు కదులుతలే నాకు
చెప్పనైనా he has some heat wound inside the mouth.
What?
Heat wound inside the mouth.
ఇక్కడ
Yes, something.
Because of heat.
Huh?
Because of heat. Body heat.
నాలిక కింద
Because of body heat, he has got some wounds inside the mouth.
Oh. Ulcer.
Yeah.
Ulcer. Okay. We'll give you a few days to cure your ulcer.
3-4 days.
Okay. Yes. Hare Krishna. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pri Vrajgacharya Stotra Satta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Shirabai Charanarvin Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skandaviti Founder Charya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtana Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jainita Gaura Pimanande, all gladies to be assembled devotees, all gladies to be assembled devotees, all gladies to be assembled devotees, all gladies to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all gladies to Sri Prabhupada Ki. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Taksuranmritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savarutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanditam Sya Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Narayanam namaskritya Ram chaiva narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed or practically to nil, and the loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya lokasya
Shreyashailokasya
Dhanyam swaschayanam mahat.
Dhanyam Swasthaya Namaha.
The Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya,
Sri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda,
Prabhu Nityananda
Sri Advaita Gadadhara,
Sri Advaita Gadadhara
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama, Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vasanam pangom langayate girim yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yatkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our morning Bhagavatam class. Rameshwar Prabhu, Haribol. We continue to read from Canto number 1, chapter 8, Prayers by Queen Kunti. And today we are text number 28, I believe. Yes, 28. Manye Tvam Kalam Ishanam Anadi Nidhanam Vibhum Samam Charantam Sarvatra Bhutanam Yan Mitaha Kalihi Manye Tvam Kalam Ishanam Anadi Nidhanam Vibhum Samam Charantam Sarvatra Bhutanam Yan Mitha Kalihi Manye Tvam Kalam Ishanam Anadi Nidhanam Vibhum Samam Charantam Sarvatra Bhutanam Yan Mitha Kalihi Manye Tvam Kalam Ishanam Anadi Nidhanam Vibhum Samam Charantam Sarvatra Bhutanam Yan Mitha Kalihi.
मन्ये त्वं कालमीशानम् अनादिनिधनं विभुम्
Anadi-nidhanam vibhum.
समं चरन्तं सर्वत्र
Samam charantam sarvatra.
भूतानं यन्मता कलिः
Bhutanam yanmitha kalihi. Manye tvam kalamishanam. Anadi-nidhanam vibhum. Samam charantam sarvatra. Bhutanam yanmitha kalihi. Manye tvam kalamishanam. Anadi-nidhanam vibhum. Samam charantam sarvatra. Bhutanam yanmitha kalihi. Manye. I consider Tvam, your lordship, Kalam, the eternal time, Ishanam, the supreme Lord, Anadi-nidhanam, without beginning and end, Vibhum, all pervading, Samam, equally merciful, Charantam, distributing, Sarvatra, everywhere, Bhutanam, of the living beings, Yat mitaha, by intercourse, Kalihi, dissension, translation and the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sridham Prabhupada Ki Jai. My Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the Supreme Controller, without beginning and end, the all-pervasive One. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are due to social intercourse. Kindly repeat after me. My Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the Supreme Controller, without beginning and end, the all-pervasive One. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are due to social intercourse. Purport. Kunti Devi knew that Krishna was neither her nephew nor an ordinary family member of her paternal house. She knew perfectly well that Krishna is the primeval Lord who lives in everyone's heart as the super soul, Paramatma. Another name of the Paramatma feature of the Lord is Kala, or eternal time. Eternal time is a witness of all our actions, good and bad, and thus resultant reactions are destined by Him. It is no use saying that we do not know why or for what we are suffering. We may forget the misdeed for which we may suffer at this present moment. But we must remember that the Paramatma is our constant companion, and therefore He knows everything, past, present, and the future. And because the Paramatma feature of Lord Krishna destines all actions and the reactions, He is the supreme controller also. Without His sanction, not a blade of grass can move. The living beings are given as much freedom as they deserve, and misuse of that freedom is a cause of suffering. The devotees of the Lord do not misuse their freedom, and therefore they are the good sons of the Lord. Others who misuse freedom are put into miseries destined by the eternal Kala. The Kala offers the conditioned souls both happiness and miseries. It is all predestined by eternal time. As we have miseries uncalled for, so we may have happiness also without being asked, for they are all predestined by Kala. No one is therefore either an enemy or friend of the Lord. Everyone is suffering and enjoying the result of his own destiny. This destiny is made by the living beings in course of social intercourse. Everyone here wants to lord it over the material nature, and thus everyone creates his own destiny under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. He is all-pervading, and therefore he can see everyone's activities. And because the Lord has no beginning or end, he is also known as the eternal time, Kala. Translation again. My Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller, without beginning and end, the all-pervading one. In distributing your mercy, you're equal to everyone. The dissensions between the living beings are due to social intercourse. Prabhupada, in one lecture series of the Nectar Devotion, 1972, was referring to the very well-known English saying that man is the architect of his own fortune. Man is the architect of his own fortune, and he immediately followed by saying, if man is architect of his own fortune, he is also architect of his own misfortune. So whatever is taking place in this material world, to all of us, to all living entities, this, the time factor. We are destined. It is called fate or destiny. Nothing happens by chance. And it is all connected with what is called social intercourse. Social intercourse means how we are dealing, exchanging with other living entities, including the Lord, who is the supreme original living entity, the source of all that be. Aham sarvasya prabhavu mata sarvam prabhartati iti madva buddha bhava samandvitaha. Those who actually understand or know that, as nicely expressed here by Queen Kunti Devi, that the Lord is the original supreme person, the original controller, then, yeah, Prabhupada explained, in this way one has no friend or no enemy. We think people are doing sometimes bad things against us. Just like in the early days when Prabhupada was I think it was in Montreal. This was related by Gopal Krishna Maharaj. Prabhupada was invited, naturally, to different devotees, arranged different programs, preaching programs for Srila Prabhupada. And there was one Indian gentleman, one Indian person who had met the devotees and met Srila Prabhupada also, and he was very friendly, very supportive. And then this was a program at maybe some college or university. And as was the custom, Prabhupada, after the lecture, he asked, "Are there any questions?" And this Indian gentleman who had been coming around, he started speaking very, very badly, very negatively against Srila Prabhupada and what he was doing. Totally unexpected to the devotees. The devotees were were shocked and were very upset, and they didn't really know what to do, and they were looking at Srila Prabhupada, what he will be doing. So this went on for some time, and Prabhupada actually he didn't do anything. He didn't respond as sometimes he would. So after the program, the devotees who were very upset, naturally, they asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, this person was very, very negative and very insulting. And he didn't do anything. Anyways, Prabhupada responded that actually it must be related to something in the past that I did something to that person, and it's coming back to me. Anything and everything, when we understand this, that everything is we could say prearranged in that the whole well, directly connected with the law of karma. Karma is actually destiny. So therefore, we don't, knowing this, we don't unnecessarily become overly disturbed by whatever may happen, isn't it? Knowing that everything is under Krishna's control, and that all living entities, Prabhupada makes this reference as well, all good things that happen will happen. All bad things that are meant or destined to happen will also happen. Therefore, a devotee does not, just like miseries come of their own accord, as they say, isn't it? We don't make any effort to bring misery or unhappiness in our lives. It comes. It comes of its own. It comes automatically. It's a very profound instruction, actually, which is directly connected with the tattva that is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Unless we understand properly tattva, then we will be confused and disturbed. So the tattva they're mentioned here in terms of kala, the time factor, in terms of prakriti, material nature, in terms of the jiva, living entity. So therefore, devotee, the more he actually realizes and understands the workings of material nature, the workings of the time factor, does not overly endeavor, as generally ordinary material people do, for creating a so-called happy situation. He learns to accept the so-called good and the so-called bad, and remains fixed on the primary goal and objective of life, which is to engage in serving the Lord and serving the Lord's mission, and therefore remains adhira, sober-minded, undisturbed by the we call the dualities of the material world, and that is one of the, of course, qualities of the Lord, and the qualities of those who are the devotees of the Lord. The Lord, he is described as Atmaram, fully satisfied, because he's, of course, always completely in his transcendental position. So the more the living entity also learns this science and this art, it's the greatest science and the greatest art of developing this transcendental consciousness, then we can more easily deal with whatever comes our way in the material world. So, as mentioned in the text, and also elaborated upon by Srila Prabhupada in the purport, these differences and these dualities, they are due to social intercourse. How we interact, isn't it, with other living entities. Therefore, therefore, that's a whole science in itself also. A devotee, a Vaishnava, who is nicely understanding these principles, who is situated in knowledge, then regardless, just like that example I was mentioning of Srila Prabhupada in Montreal, when Prabhupada, that was when Prabhupada was staying in Montreal for about 3 months for visa purposes. He was, devotees were helping him to get a visa to return to America. So when actually the time came for him to leave Montreal, that same person came possibly to the airport, and Prabhupada just spoke to him very nicely, even though he had not been so nice to Srila Prabhupada. So in other words, a sign of a pure devotee or advanced devotee is that he remains always the well-wisher of all living entities. And he's not disturbed by whatever negative whatever negativity may come from others, and therefore the qualities which are described, which are identified by Srila Rupa Goswami, the quality of being very patient and tolerant are very important. We have to tolerate so many situations. We have to tolerate so many individuals, and not allow ourselves to become overly disturbed by whatever may be taking place. Of course, at the same time, that doesn't mean, just like Srila Prabhupada did become, let's say, disturbed at different times when he had to deal with different individuals, primarily for the purpose of upholding, let's say, dharma. In other words, we've heard this before. For our personal self, this is an important lesson. For our personal self, we should not be disturbed. But when things in relation to dharma, just like Prabhupada's whole lila in Mumbai, when the land in Juhu was being threatened by the person who was selling it, Mr. N, referred to as Mr. N, Prabhupada became very furious, and he fought against what was threatening, actually, things that in relation to Krishna, or in relation to dharma. So it doesn't mean that understanding this principle of destiny, that a devotee remains, that at different times he doesn't act or react. Arjuna, ultimately, when he understood the instructions given by Krishna, he reacted. He fought on the principles of dharma. So, like this, Queen Kunti is glorifying the Lord, explaining. We can get a little glimpse, more than a little glimpse. We can understand the very elevated consciousness of Queen Kunti, who is in all of these wonderful prayers she's composing here, describing the unique features of Krishna, fully understanding his nature as being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, yeah, very fundamental principle that Krishna, he is all pervading as Paramatma. He is conscious always of what is taking place, and he remains the ever well-wisher of all living entities. Of course, we know this theoretically, but this is what we need to realize more and more. The more, that's the characteristic of those who are on that very elevated level of consciousness. They they fully depend on the Lord, and they never forget the position of the Lord, and therefore their own position as menial servants of the Lord. So the translation again here. My Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller, without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you're equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are due to social intercourse. Any thoughts on this? Yes.
Right, it's a common question. Sometimes it's a little thing to. I mean, it's a typical question which they ask in philosophical circles, especially when the theory of karma comes. And if things are already predestined, so we are just playing the role here, predestined activities here.
Why act? Why do anything?
Yeah, and then the future is also like that. So, what is the? I mean, isn't it too determinist?
So the actual question is, or it's not really a question, it's just
Isn't this whole concept that everything is kala, everything is predestined, a very deterministic
view or philosophy? Yeah. Yeah, when one of the reactions, I guess, when we read or come to know that, destiny is there, then one may say, well, then I should not endeavor for anything. It's already predestined. What is predestined? What is predestined is that what is based on our previous activities. The reactions, good and bad, mixture of both, that's already determined based on those activities. But we, as in the past, now also, we maintain this minute independence. In other words, we cannot change our previous actions. Of course, through the process of bhakti, we can erase karmic reaction. We can nullify karmic reaction, and we, by our present activities, we can shape what will be our both present and future destiny. In other words, in that simultaneously predestiny or destiny rather, is present, as well as one's minute independence to act in such a way that it will shape, you know, in as much as we have shaped our present situation due to previous activities, where we also had minute independence, we continue to have that minute independence to shape our present and future destiny. It's like every day we have a choice to get up and attend Mangalarti. Every day we have a choice to do so many things. We have a choice to associate with devotees or to associate with non-devotees. We have so many choices every single moment of the day, and depending on those choices, then we create good and bad reaction. While simultaneously having, it's like the body that we have now is based on karma, on what we have done, what we have thought in the past. So there are many things we cannot change. We cannot just do away with this body. It's part of our karma. But we can we can influence what our future position or future destiny will be. So this aspect of minute independence is something very important, because as it has shaped our present situation, our present destiny, this minute independence continues to shape what will be our future position, our future destiny.
Our future means the physical body.
Mm?
Our future means the physical body.
That is up to us.
Destiny of the physical body,
Future means
which is determined by the previous.
well, this is I remember many years ago, it was he probably doesn't remember, he was like a student, our Shamananda Pandit was in England from Secunderabad, and I was explaining, in Secunderabad we used to have the book table in the front, so many people coming by, and naturally people, they would stop and buy books, etc. And I was explaining this point that, you know, we have different levels of existence. We have this gross body, we have the subtle body, and then we have the spiritual body. You know, I mean, most people don't understand this, don't even know about it. Actually, not conscious of it. And the point being that it is our subtle body, which is, as we know, made up of mind, intelligence, and ego. It is the subtle body that shapes and determines what our next body will be. So our subtle body is not annihilated when this gross body ceases to function. When this body dies, our subtle body doesn't die, as we know, and that subtle body carries the soul to the next destination. And the subtle body, which is primarily in terms of thinking, feeling, and willing, if our thinking, feeling, and willing is on either the gross or even the subtle material platform, then we'll have a future material body. But if we are cultivating spiritual life, in particular devotional life, if our thinking becomes devotional thinking, our feeling devotional feeling, our willing or desires devotional desires, then then we gradually what is it do away with the material. We do away with the need of getting a material body in the next life. I mean, that expression we have all heard before: "Die before you die." Die before you die. Put an end to our subtle uh, material desires, material feelings, material thinking. So in other words, just like in the very beginning, that expression that Prabhupada was at different times referring to, that man is the architect of his own fortune. So our good fortune is that we can determine by our present activities whether we will have in our next, let's say, after leaving this body, whether we will have a material body in our next life, or whether we are finished with material bodies and we simply regain, so to speak, or revive our original spiritual body. So vast majority of living entities not having this knowledge, not knowing this science. That's called, it's a science of transmigration of the soul, isn't it? Transmigration of the soul. Soul is forced to go from one material body to another due to the state of consciousness, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita at the time of death. So, in other words, it is up to us. It is up to us as individuals. We are the ones who can determine if we will have a material body and what kind of material body. It may be in a human form or not. Of course, those who are devotees, as we know, they're guaranteed to have at least a material body. But those who are totally under the laws of the material nature, who are not having spiritual transcendental knowledge, their chances of getting a human body, if they have been acting sinfully and without spiritual knowledge, that's our position, then they will get a material body in some different species. That's a little bit what you're kind of, yeah. But
I have a classmate of mine in his study in philosophy. So
in philosophy,
she was asking me
yeah.
a question. I met her years later. He says, if everything's predetermined, like for example, my son, it is given in the scriptures
Right.
that his education, his wealth, his lifespan, 5 things I think are predetermined at the time of conception itself. So why should I take care of my son? Because anyway, these are all determined. His education is all predetermined.
Yes.
So why should I? What is my role?
Right. Well, in the same way
My
that
mother is asking. She's
Huh?
a mother. She was a mother. So, I mean, both the husband and wife of my classmates.
Yeah. Yes.
So she was asking. She's a professor of philosophy.
Right.
So she was asking this question: is that if things are predetermined, what is my role in this? Why
Well,
should I take care of the child?
yeah,
No.
People will ask such types of questions. Um, the, the answer actually is in what is mentioned here, according to social intercourse. So, inasmuch as your son's destiny is already worked out, um, so his destiny is connected with your destiny also. So you're also destined to take care of him rightly or wrongly, which will also affect, because it's all interconnected. We uh, our present situation is based on how we interacted with others. Uh, I mean, our present situation is how we interacted in the past with others, and so our present situation is also, although individually destined, is in connection with other living entities. So if somebody is my father and mother, I'm a child, their child, I'm destined in such a way, but that destiny is also intimately connected with who's my father and my present father and mother. So, so in other words, their son's destiny is is as described as in the Shastra, based on, why is it that they happen to be their father, and the mother and father of that child? That's also destiny, and how they will be um, taking care of him. That's also based on their individual destiny. So it's interrelated, interconnected. So it doesn't mean that they just, because he's destined that way. Well, you're also destined. You're also destined. You have been destined to become his father and mother, and to act in either in whatever way that that is there. It's like some fathers have more ability maybe to look after their son based on their karma. You know, maybe like a father is more opulent, has more rich, has more facilities to take care of his children. So that's destiny. But at the same time, he also, not only him, but every member of the family still maintains that minute independence. So it's like what is it? It's short-sightedness or a lack of understanding that, okay, my son, his destiny is there, so what do I have to do? Well, the thing is, you, because you're his father, you're no destiny, no one's destiny is like in a bubble. It's all interconnected with other living entities. And Prabhupada also did explain this last point, how the law of karma is very complicated. Not so easy to understand.
Yeah, there is a story of Lord Shiva and Sunny, the Saturn, and Lord Shiva understood that in one day it was really uh, influenced by Sunny, so he decided not to act on that day anything because Sunny would destroy every result.
Mm.
And then that day, when that was the influence, according to the astrological calculation, he was just sitting and meditating and doing nothing. And the next day he went to Sunny, oh, I conquered you because I could avoid your influence. And Sunny asked, what do you think? Who influenced you? You just sit down and do nothing. So we cannot avoid the influences, but we can decide how to deal with that influence.
Yeah.
So it means that, what do you call it? This theory that everything is determined
Yes.
with riders.
With.
I mean, what we say the TNC, terms and conditions. Conditions
Oh.
apply. So it has a modified deterministic.
Yes, iteration. In the
so-
mathematics, there is a way how to create a how what is this?
No, the question is more fundamental. Basically, the question is fundamental is because then how do we understand scriptures? They are saying that prakriti kriyamanani guni karmani sarvasya ahankara vimodatma karta ahamiti manyate. So the mother is, I am trying to do something for the child. It is only an ahankar. It is actually not to be done. I mean, it's just a superfluous thing. So, I mean, how do we explain these tattwas that are there in the scriptures?
Well, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna very clearly, it's part of our basic philosophy, that those who are devoid of this knowledge and understanding, they are forced to act by nature. They are, even without being conscious of it, whatever they do, it's based on the laws of nature, on karma. So they're the subtle influence of material nature is acting, forcing everyone in so many ways. So even if one may say, because he has some kind of philosophical understanding, or one yeah, I mean, parents or anyone can come to that misunderstanding. Okay, then I'll do nothing because it's already predetermined. Well, that's part of being predetermined also, that you have that choice, and this is, it's part of your um, bad karma to come to this kind of understanding, just like so many people do so many bad things. So
The choice also, they'll say that the choice is also predetermined. Because your philosophy says everything is predetermined. The choice is also a predetermined factor.
What is predetermined is the reaction to what we've done in the past, but we maintain, that's part of the philosophy as well, we have a choice to turn right or to turn left. Those who don't have proper, that's what Krishna is telling, um, the difference between prakriti marga nivriti, prakritim cha nivritim cha, janana vidura sura, nasucham napita saru nasatyam teshu vidyate. So those who are devoid of this proper knowledge, then in many ways, yes, they're acting based on the law of karma. They're forced to act in so many different ways, including sinful ways, because they don't know the difference between what is good and what is bad, or what is to be done and what not to be done. So that kind of situation makes for a very, we could say, very unfortunate and very hellish kind of situation. So in many ways, one is forced to act by the laws of nature. Then one may say, well, then I'm not responsible. But you are responsible because you're the ones who created, you have created this situation where you're now in ignorance and you're acting in ways which are creating good or bad reactions.
No, but the question, it begs the question, because if things are already predetermined, then how did I create my karma?
If things are already predetermined, how
do I create my karma?
How do I create my karma?
In the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there is a nice explanation about when Krishna tells Arjuna that there are different type of actions. One is creating karma, but one is not creating karma, and one creating bad reactions. So we have to learn and we have to decide, I want to create karma, and then that's a type of decision. I want to not create karma, that's a different type of consciousness or decision, and I want to create really bad future for the present good understanding, because everything is depend on the present aham and mameti situation, your consciousness, what you are seeing, who you are, and what is your goal.
No, the question is more fundamental than that.
It's not that's fundamental in the Bhagavad Gita. That is the fundamental principle of karmic or
philosophically speaking, the fundamentality is that if you're saying that everything is deterministic, then where is the role of what do you call it? The choice is also a part of the deterministic system.
Yes and no. I mean, our previous activities determine our present situation, but not fully in terms of what choices we will make. Otherwise, there's no meaning to this aspect of our philosophy that we eternally have minute independence. So what is the meaning of having minute independence? It means that if we are fully, completely destined based on previous activities, then what happens to that minute independence? Both aspects are there. That the minute independence remains eternally, even when we go back to the spiritual world. And when we are here in the material world, we are under the control of destiny. Both of these are realities. So it's kind of like where to draw the line. Where to draw this fine line that if we're totally destined, then we don't have minute independence. But if we have minute independence, that means that we're not. No, it means that we're not fully, completely predestined.
So that means this statement is not correct. Prakriti kriya manani gunai karmani sarvasyaha. Sarvasyaha means everything.
At the same time, the laws of material nature are very stringent, and of course, whatever Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita is eternal truth. But simultaneously, Krishna also explains that living entity has that minute independence. So that minute independence is
Which verse can we actually give that there is a minute independence? Bhagavad Gita. Because he said Sarvasha, so what verse we will say that yes, this is your independence that Krishna has talked about.
Well, our acharyas mention about minute independence of the living entity, which verse we could quote for that. It's connected with when Krishna explains the position of the living entity. Mamai Vangsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. So living entity is is part and parcel of Krishna, and therefore has the same qualities as Krishna, who is having full independence, and by logic, if we are part and parcel of Krishna, we have the same quality as Krishna, isn't it? I can't think of a verse that is specifically telling that the living entity has minute independence, but that is how the Lord is described. There must be some Sanskrit.
I'm thinking that here is for chapter 4 from 17 to 20, exactly is explaining that free will is present for the spiritual soul if he is abandoning all attachment to the result of his activities, he will ever satisfied and independent. He performs no fruitive action, also engaged in all kinds of undertakings. So 420.
That's describing the jiva. The jiva.
Such a jiva who is not under the full control of action or reaction. Means his jiva as well as the mind independence. That's verse also one of which prove that some has independent. He is independent. He is ever satisfied and independent. It's the spirit soul, not the supreme soul, who is always independent.
So there is that subtle combination of everyone in the material world being heavily influenced by the modes of material nature, by the law of karma, where so many things are, the topic this morning is destiny.
Yeah.
So many things are predestined. At the same time, we have that minute independence.
Yeah, because destiny is about on the false ego and everything which is connected to the ahankara. But independent is the nature of the spirit soul. Also, it's minor independence, but it's the spirit soul's quality. So, because the two is together, until the spirit soul is not awakened, it looks like everything is determined for the spirit soul, because every action is determined by the false ego, ahankara. But immediately, when the spirit soul have awakened, that spirit soul decision is not under the control of the material nature. So it's like a question of they are together or they're separated. It's my understanding.
The concept of knowledge is definitely one thing that Krishna is in the 4th chapter.
The
saying
concept of knowledge.
knowledge can change that aspect of it. Like, for example, Janma Karma Chami Divyam Evam Yo Vyakti Tatpataha. Someone who knows of Tatpataha, Naiti Mam, what do you call it? He doesn't again take birth
Correct.
again. And then Evam Gyatva Kritam Karma Purvairapi Mumukshu. Even Gyatva. So it is only knowledge. It seems to be Purvairapi Mumukshu. Puru Karma Eva Tasmatvam Purvai Purvataram Kritam. So Evam Gyatva Kritam Karma. That means all liberated souls in the ancient times had acted with this understanding of my nature, my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps.
Same thing is there in the 14th chapter. 14th chapter, verse 1 and 2. That in the past, great sages, having this knowledge, attained liberation because of this knowledge, and they became freed and liberated from the modes of material nature.
Tatte karma pravakshyami yad gyatva mukshuse subha.
Yes.
Next verse. Kim karma kim akarmeti kavayopi atra mokta. Tatte karma pravakshyami yad gyatva mukshuse subha.
This is which verse?
This is the 4th chapter, 16th verse.
Yeah.
Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune.
So that's very similar to what is in the 14th chapter, 14.1. 14.1 and 2.
The Supreme Person of Godhead said, again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection.
Yes.
The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. It's knowledge looks like which is the
Deciding factor, or the, whenever we start talking about karma, it is actually quite intricate. Karma.
Yeah, the knowledge is burning out all the karma. That's also
Yes.
the higher knowledge, not the lower.
Jnanadni Dagda Karmanam. That's the next case. Jnanadni Dagda Karmanam Tam Ahu Panditam Buddha.
The other question, how you get that knowledge, it's another.
Oh, so there is one more thing here. Yasya sarve samarambha kama sankalpa varjita. This is if the kama, the sankalpa, that is what is it? The determination. The kama's determination is not there. And he says yasya sarve samarambha. Before starting any activity, if there is no kama in that activity, there is no desire for any kama sankalpa varjita, jnanadni dagdha karmanam. So that knowledge will dagdha karmanam tamahu panditam. So that will destroy all karmas.
That knowledge will destroy.
Jnanadni dagdha karmanam.
Yeah, same making.
So it looks like the jnana is.
Yes. Because in different purports in the Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is dealing with the fundamental, basic philosophy, it explains how those who are not having this knowledge, those who are not in basic, ultimately Krishna consciousness, they are constantly under the stringent laws of material nature, are forced to act in so-called good and bad activities. And which are creating all kinds of suffering and miseries for the living entity, and to come out of that, practically speaking, unending repetition of suffering through birth and death, then knowledge is actually the key factor. Knowledge will enable us to know how to put an end to that suffering. I mean, transcendental knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and of course, ultimately, even beyond spiritual knowledge, as specified by Srila Rupa Goswami when he explains about the three levels of happiness: material happiness, transcendental happiness, and then devotional happiness. Because even transcendental happiness, which is, the level of those who attain what we call Brahmananda, is not an eternal happiness, because it only can bring the living entity up to, emerging in the Brahmajyoti, which is not an eternal position. So, in other words, it's important for us to also keep this distinction between what we call transcendental knowledge or transcendental happiness and devotional. So, which means actually, which is a point that Prabhupada again and again would make, unless we come to know and to understand and realize Krishna, God, as being a person, as being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we remain entangled, either in a gross manner or a subtle manner in the material world. Anyone, all of us, having come in this material world, the laws of material nature being such, it is extremely entangling and very, very difficult, extremely difficult. So much so that actually without ultimately the mercy of persons who are in knowledge, or without the mercy of Vaishnavas, our situation is like practically hopeless. We are nityabadha, eternally conditioned by these modes of material nature. But if we're fortunate to somehow or other come in contact with this knowledge, which is generally through the mercy of devotees, of Vaishnavas, then we can put an end. And I suppose we also need to put an end to our Bhagavatam class. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam class. Ki Jai.